They like that because everyone was flashing. Okay. Today we're going to start the hey. That's 85A. We're going to start at the Mishnah. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. So we're learning, we should have this in English immediately, and we should be a refuah shlema. Everyone that needs. Okay, Kainam, they see the Mishnah over here on 85. Kainam she'eni oisa al pi abba. The translation of that is what I make, what I produce, should be forbidden to my father. Kainam she'eni oisa al pi abba. It's really masha ani oisa should be a kainam to my father. That's okay. Or it's the same comment al pi avicha, for your father. This is what she's telling her husband. Kainam means that it's like a sacrifice. It's going to be forbidden. It's the way of saying it now. I have she'eni, and the way the commentaries are translating is sha'ani isa, ma sha'ani isa. Or it would be, if it's she'eni, then you would have to read it that I won't make anything for my father. But that's really a shvuah. So a shvuah is on the action, that I won't do something. The vow is on the object. So what I make, what I produce, that's prohibited. That's the vow. That's shani mashani is better. At least that's how the Ran has it. What I will not produce?
I will not produce anything for my father, as that is a quantum for me.
I'm going to have some difficulty fitting that together.
So I will not produce anything for you.
So I will not produce anything for my father, as that is a kainam for me. No, that sounds like an oath rather than a vow. So what the Ran is doing is he's switching it to a vow. See, the vow, the neder is on the object. This is saying the production of it is prohibited.
Right.
Not the object. But it has to be the object. I will not produce is the production.
Right.
But it's what we really want prohibited here. What she's saying is the object is prohibited. What I produce, those objects are prohibited. That which I produce. Right. That's the way, at least that's how the Ran is translating. Let's see.
He'll fit.
Let's see. Val pi avicha for your father, val pi achi for my brother, val pi achicha for your brother. So she's prohibiting something that she's going to produce for any of these relatives. And the rule is that the husband, he cannot annul a vow like that, because there are only two vows that he can annul. One was a vow that would afflict her soul,
First.
and this doesn't afflict her soul, because this is just prohibiting other people from benefiting from her. And the other type of vow was something that was relevant for their relationship, and this is nothing to do with them. This is to do with her and someone else.
Sounds like she doesn't necessarily have to be like Katana living under her father. She could be an adult.
No, she's living under her husband.
Oh.
And it's her husband that can't annul it.
No matter how old she is.
No matter how old she is, right?
Why
Why can't the husband annul it? Because the husband can only annul one of two types of vows. Either it's a vow that's afflicting her, or if it's relevant to their relationship.
Will not producing something for her father affect her?
If it doesn't.
It's not like weave something or
Right.
sew something.
That's probably what's happening. She's saying anything that I produce should not go, all my income should not go to.
No, this is She's going to sell it to her. Give it to her father.
Either they sell it or not sell it would be a benefit. We're talking about giving it,
like birthday gift.
right?
But so he cannot prohibit that.
The husband cannot annul that.
No, cannot annul that.
Right. Let's say she says for her husband, "She'eni yosa al picha,
Ooh.
or shani yosa al picha." I won't make anything for you,
Whoa.
for the husband. So then, not only does the husband, not only is the husband able to annul it, but he doesn't even need to annul it because there's no such thing as a vow where she would say that I'm not going to do anything for you, because the husband owns that. She can't forbid on her husband something that the husband has the rights to. Right? The husband owns it. It would be like saying, you cannot eat what you make. Like the kids say jinx. Like you can't talk until someone says it. So, well, I didn't say jinx. I can do whatever I want, right? Somehow they sort of feel like you're under a spell and you can't do it. So, yeah. So she can't say that you can't eat your own food. And since this is what the husband owns, the work of her hands, so she can't forbid that. So we're going to see shortly that there's actually a bigger chiddush in this. The bigger chiddush is that even though the husband has rights to her income, but there was a certain amount of her income that the husband has rights to. Let's say there's that extra income that she makes that really should belong to her. Who does that belong to? Does that belong to her? Or does that belong to the husband? So the Tanna Kama holds that belongs to the husband also. And even if there is extra income, we don't say that it's considered hers. We say that that's also the husband. That extra income is the chiddush over here. Rabbi Akiva says no. Akiva says Yafer, the husband should annul it. Maybe she'll have extra income, which means Rabbi Akiva is arguing on the Tanna Kama, the first opinion, regarding the extras. If there's anything extra than what she was supposed to earn for the household, for the husband, so she keeps that, according to Rabbi Akiva. And therefore, the husband doesn't have rights to it. If she takes a vow, she can prohibit it on her husband, because that's considered hers. So there's a machlekes here, if the extra produce belongs to her or to the husband.
If it's from her hands.
If it's from her hand.
But then
Usually the
what's the
husband,
reasoning? Yeah.
usually the husband owns everything that she earns, right? But here it's the extras. Yeah, there was a certain amount. I forget what it is. Was it a sella or was it 5 slime or something? The weight of 5 slime. Yeah, something like that.
From here, it seems like the production is not the actual item.
Right. That's you saying it's the production? I don't know. Maybe there'll be extra in the items, and those items will be prohibited. Yeah. Yasim in a roy, like more than what the husband has rights to.
I think the husband would have, obviously he has like the right to dowry, right?
But also as she works, because the husband supports her, and the husband is going to pay her doctor bills, and the husband is going to redeem her if she ever is taken captive. So what she earns also belongs to her. Yeah. Well, Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri says, Yafer. Where's Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri on this? I assume he's around Rabbi Akiva's generation. Shami Yigrashena, he adds in that it's not just that that maybe there'll be extra. It's not just that maybe it'll be extra and that belongs to her. It's much more than that. It's maybe he'll divorce her and then everything will belong to her. Then he'll try to remarry her and the vow is going to take effect after the divorce. The vow can't take effect while they're married because she takes a vow that he can't have benefit from her, what she does. He owns that. She can't prohibit that. But after the divorce, then she owns it herself, so she can prohibit it. Then the husband may want to remarry her, and it's already prohibited. In other words, there would be a delay in the effect of the vow. The vow would take effect later. And the big chiddush here is that the husband can annul the vow now for this delayed vow, which didn't even take effect yet. He can annul it now already because of what could happen later. That's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's saying. Now,
So the husband can annul any neder if they get remarried. For example.
no, he can only annul it on that day that it's made.
Getting all the details. It's very complex. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, we had vows that that the husband can't annul if they're not relevant to them. Vows that the husband doesn't need to annul. That's the Tanakama's view. And Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri both have a say that the husband should annul those vows, either according to Rabbi Akiva because of the extras, or Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri because of a possible divorce, which will allow the vow to take effect. What does Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri hold regarding who owns the extras? Rabbi Akiva clearly holds that she owns the extras, and therefore she can forbid it on her husband, the surplus of it. Tanakama held that there was no surplus. Everything the husband owns, so there's no reason to annul it. What does Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri hold about that? So probably because Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is only concerned about the divorce, so then the surplus probably belongs to him. Also belongs to him. There's no concern about, right? He says, why should he annul it? Because of the divorce. That means it's not because of the surplus. So really, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would hold like Tanakama regarding the surplus, and Rabbi Akiva is the one that holds that there is a surplus here that she actually owns. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Yeah, this is unique that they have this like immediately right after a Mishnah. Usually they talk about like what the Mishnah means, and this here it just jumps to the conclusion. The halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, let's assume that what he means is, I mean, we have a lot of ins and outs of what's what. Let's assume that he means about the whole thing, that she takes a vow. The vow doesn't take effect till after the divorce. He's able to annul it now. Already now, because of the effect, because of the vow will actually work after the divorce, which means, Lememra, is this to say, because Savar Shmuel, that Shmuel holds, Adam Makdish Davar Shlai Balaylam. We're doing a comparison here. Does Shmuel hold that a person can sanctify something that's not yet come into existence? Now, the comparison. So that's the comparison. Kaina, sanctify means that it's hektish, it belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. Kaina means that it's prohibited, but it's like it's a type of, the power that you have to sanctify is similar to the power that you have to make something prohibited. You say some words, it either becomes consecrated or it becomes prohibited, depending on the words that you say. So we were assuming always that Shmuel holds that the person is not able to consecrate something that doesn't exist yet. You don't even have it yet. How are you consecrating it? Wait till you get it, then you can consecrate it. But here, we're seeing that if he holds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, he's able to consecrate something that doesn't exist yet. How? Because we see that she's able to make a vow on something that doesn't exist yet. The production that she's going to do after she's divorced, she's vowing that should be prohibited on her husband.
How does Shmuel hold about buying or selling something that doesn't exist?
Just the question I was going to ask.
Yeah, we probably hold that you can't.
By futures.
Probably you can't. Ein adam makne davar shlei balaylam. And there was only like a Reb Meir that said yes. That's what Reb Meir is going to come up. So you'll see Reb Meir in a minute. Futures, they said, right? The contradiction, yeah.
One thing that came to mind was like some people they vow that they're gonna give like certain tzedakah like in the coming year. Like
Right.
God willing, they make that amount so they can give a tzedakah.
We had that before. Does anyone remember? If someone vows tzedakah for what they're going to make during the coming year.
I've heard of it.
I don't remember. We had that somewhere in passing, but
But now that if you have a child, that child will be dedicated to the.
yeah, like Hannah,
Yeah, so that's the future.
right?
Did you do that?
That's very interesting.
We've seen that thing.
Is that with Shimshon also?
Shimshon became a nazir from
For-
conception,
for
right?
parents
Even
made
while
about,
right. Yeah, all of these are good questions. I don't know the answer. Let's see. Varamini, we have a contradiction on this. What we're saying now that Shmuel holds that a person can go ahead.
yeah.
No, go ahead. You get used to background noise. So it's like when the kids are crying, the parents don't even hear it. You know, so yeah, they're kvetching away.
So this is nothing, right?
You don't even hear it.
Coffee machine. Who cares?
So that no one else can concentrate. It's like, don't you want to? V'ramini, there's a contradiction. Hamakdish ma'aseh yedei yishtei. If someone consecrates the income, the production of his wife's work. Now, she didn't do it yet. So the rule is, harezu oisev v'chelas. She is allowed to continue eating what she produces. So I think this was a case where she told her husband that I'm gonna support myself. Where did I see this? Well, there are two ways of learning this, but even in the way, if you say, there's a discussion, is a woman able to tell her husband, don't worry, you don't need to support me, but I'll support myself from my income, and my income shouldn't belong to you. Is a woman have the rights to make that arrangement? That's a discussion in the Gemara. Right, that would be very common, where they have a separate bank account, and so she's able to continue eating, and he took this, he consecrated it, but it doesn't work. Okay. Question is v'hamaiser. What about if he consecrated the surplus? Now, why should he be allowed to consecrate the surplus? What's happening here is that she passes away. And is it considered consecrated when he inherits it? Is that how it's written over there in the English? That she passes away and then he inherits it? And then the question is, because he consecrated it before, does it become consecrated now that he inherits it? So Reb Meir says hektish. Reb Meir says it does, because Reb Meir held, as you know from other Gemaras, Reb Meir holds Adam makne davar shlei b'olam, which means a person can consecrate something that doesn't exist as well. So it wasn't his before, but what about after she passed away and he inherits her? So it's his now, and he consecrated it back then. Was he able to consecrate it back then for what's going to happen when he inherits it? It wasn't even his yet. So Reb Meir says yes, because that's Reb Meir's view. Rabbi Yochanan Sandler, Amar Chulin, Rabbi Yochanan Sandler says you can't do that. You can't consecrate something that you don't own yet. You can only consecrate it once you own it. Now, what's the halacha? Shmuel, halacha Rabbi Yochanan Sandler. So Shmuel says that you can't consecrate something that doesn't exist. And Shmuel says over here that you can, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that you can take a vow for something that doesn't exist. take a vow on the work of the hands after they're divorced, that's considered a vow. So if you do this if you accept this comparison, that consecrating something, taking a vow, is a perfect comparison, then we have a contradiction in the rulings of Shmuel. He paskins like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri regarding vows, that it does take effect even though it doesn't exist, and he paskins like Rabbi Yochanan Asanda regarding consecration, that it does not take effect because it doesn't exist yet. So that's the contradiction.
I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, so Hassamler says you cannot consecrate something that
Doesn't exist yet
that
for the future.
It's very similar to what Rabbi Nuri said.
Yeah.
Right, but one's for the basic mikdash,
Yeah.
the other is
The difference is between Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and Rabbi Yochanan Asanda, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that if a woman takes a vow that her husband can't benefit from her, then the husband needs to annul it, because if he divorces her, then that vow would take effect after the divorce, which means that the vow is working on something that doesn't really exist right now. The work of her hands after she's divorced doesn't exist yet, and she's forbidding that on her husband. It doesn't exist yet, and it's becoming forbidden. And Rabbi Yochanan Asandler says exactly the opposite. He says that if a woman that if a husband consecrates the wife's earnings, he's not able to do that until after she passes away and he inherits it. And since he's doing it before she passed away, so he can't consecrate anything that doesn't exist right now, and it's not his right now. So that's a clear contradiction if you accept that taking a vow and consecrating has the same rules.
Some are small halachic Rabbi Yochanan. Don't agree, then say, I don't agree, halacha should be not like Rabbi Yochanan.
Right.
Then what do we do? Wait. If Shmuel believes that kind of like this, then he has to follow. He simply agrees with that.
Right. That's what the Gemara is going to answer.
I know, but even the whole logic is wrong. Like,
No.
Why are you even going down this road? Why don't you just argue the solution? Say, no, I don't believe the halacha is like Shmuel. I'm sorry, I don't believe the halacha like Rabbi Yochanan.
No, I have a statement from Shmuel where Shmuel says halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri.
Okay.
I have a second statement from Shmuel that says that halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan Asandler. Now,
Fine.
Rabbi Yochanan Asandler and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri are saying exactly the opposite.
Right. Two separate subjects.
Two separate subjects.
Right.
So that's true. That's true. The Gemara is going to come to that, but the Gemara goes through a lot of back and forth. So.
What is the difference between the both scenarios? That the both opinions are the opposite, but they're both.
So one is taking a vow that's only going to take effect after they're divorced. So right now the vow doesn't take effect, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that vow works, even though right now it's not. The item doesn't exist yet. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan Asandler says that consecrating something that's not yours right now, but will be yours later, doesn't take effect. Does not. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would say that it does. Rabbi Yochanan Asandler says that it doesn't. Okay. Alma, we see from Rabbi Yochanan Asandler, a person cannot consecrate something that doesn't exist. And if you'll say, Kikamar halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ala dafu the kamar, Gemara gives an interesting answer. Maybe you can answer like this. When Shmuel said the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, did he mean that the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri regarding the vow that the woman takes, that the vow takes effect? There was a underlying machlekes here between Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and Rabbi Akiva regarding the surplus. Who owns the surplus? Rabbi Akiva said the surplus belongs to her, and therefore she can forbid it on her husband. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says the surplus belongs to the husband, and she can't forbid that. The whole issue was after the divorce. That was it. So in other words, there is a secondary machlekes here that when Shmuel says halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, he wasn't necessarily referring to the primary machlekes. He was referring to the secondary machlaikas. He was referring to the hadafa, to the extras that the woman earns, that she cannot prohibit on her husband. And Shmuel says, you're right, that belongs to the husband. The halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that belongs to the husband. And that would resolve the contradiction. The Gemara says, if that's the case, Leima halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ba'adafa. Since that's only a secondary machlaikas here, that's not the primary discussion. That's just an underlying problem. So then it should say the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, specifically regarding that. Should have spelled it out. Shmuel should spell out what he means. Inami, or another option is halacha ketanakama. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri held like the Tanakama regarding the surplus earnings of the wife, that it doesn't belong to her, that it belongs to the husband. He agreed to the Tanakama. It was only Rabbi Kiva that said different. So why do you have to say the halacha is like this individual? Say the halacha is like the Tanakama, like the first opinion. Inami, or else he could have said, Ein halacha Rabbi Akiva. The halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva. That would have told me automatically that the halacha is that she does not own the surplus. Why do you have to say halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and confuse us all? I'm reading the Ein because I have it in parentheses, but in the Ran I saw Ein halacha Rabbi Akiva, so I'm accepting that version. You have to play with it to make it fit.
Yeah,
I mean, the rule was they always told us don't read the parentheses, but over here it fits with the parentheses.
the rabbi, I can't really, Hillel and I don't really say anything about like passing away or anything.
These translations skip altogether.
I'm explaining it according to the Ran. Let me take a look. No, even according to the other commentators, they're saying that it's talking about after her death.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had an answer, but we rejected it. Yeah, we had an answer, but we rejected it. We said if it was talking about the Shmuel was saying the Allah like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, he wasn't referring to the primary thing. He should have said other statement. Amar lei Abaya. Abaya says, who's Abaya talking to? Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Rabbi Yosef. Elamar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef. Now it makes sense. Rabbi Yosef is the teacher of Abaya. Rabbi Yosef says, Shani kainamis. Vows are different than sanctifying, than consecrating something. Exactly like you wanted to say. Why? So look at what a person can do. When it comes to a vow, a person can say, my produce should be forbidden on you. That means I'm able to do something to someone else, which is not his, and I can prohibit something on someone else. That's very similar to something that doesn't exist yet. Why? Because for that person, it's not his. It's like in that person's world, this doesn't exist. It's all mine. And I can prohibit what's mine on him. That means that I can prohibit something that's in the future. So something that's not owned by the person is like it's in the future. So therefore, when it comes to a vow, that should work. But when it comes to consecrating something, it doesn't work like that. I can't prohibit something that I don't own. I can't consecrate it, right? So when it comes to consecrating, if you don't own it, you can't consecrate it. When it comes to taking a vow, I can make it prohibited on someone else who doesn't own it. Amalei Abaya, I says, 1 second. 1 second. He's asking on Rabbi Yosef. Abaya and Rabbi Yosef have discussions a lot. Rabbi Yosef is the teacher. I can understand. Oh, I said it backwards. I said that I can make what's mine prohibited on the other person. Really, what Rabbi Yosef says is I can make what someone else's prohibited on me. That's really what Rabbi Yosef says. Which it means for me, it doesn't exist yet. And I could say, I'm not going to eat your food. I'm going to take a vow. So for me, that's like a future because it's not mine. It doesn't exist in my world, and I can prohibit it. So therefore, I can also prohibit something that doesn't exist
Wait,
yet.
first one is I prohibit that which exists, or that won't, that doesn't not yet exist.
When I'm taking a vow, I can, since I'm able to prohibit something that's not mine on myself,
But it exists.
it exists. So too, I can prohibit something that is mine but doesn't exist yet.
Why? That's a big jump.
That's a big jump. But we're saying that, but you see that there is a concept of prohibiting something that's not yours on yourself,
Right.
but you can't do that with consecrating. I can't consecrate something that's not mine. But since I have that difference between taking a vow, a prohibition, and consecrating, so maybe that would match up with the prohibiting something that's in the future. Since I can prohibit something that's not mine on myself, maybe I can also prohibit something that's in the future.
What if the circumstance in the future never materializes?
So then it won't be prohibited. But
So vow is not a consecration. And when a woman, the guy says, I wouldn't marry you if you were the last person on earth. The woman says that, right? The woman says, I wouldn't marry you even if you were the last man. Is that exists? But which of those two cases is that a consecration? Is that a vow?
that would be an oath.
It's an oath.
Okay, Abaya responds to Rabbi Yosef. He says your comparison isn't perfect. Why? Because if a person wants to prohibit something that's not his on himself, why is he allowed to do that? Because he's able to prohibit because I can prohibit what's mine on you. I can say that you can't have benefit from what's mine, so I can also say what's yours is prohibited to me. However, to prohibit something that doesn't exist yet on someone else, if every time if the comparison works like this, that something that doesn't exist yet is like something that you don't own. So to prohibit something that doesn't exist on someone else, that would be like prohibiting someone else's food, I don't own it, on someone else. If I would say that, let's say my name's Levi, so Reuven Shimon. I say, Reuven and Shimon, Reuven, you can't eat Shimon's food. And that's Levi talking, right? He can't do that. Levi can say that Reuven can't eat my food. Levi can say that I'm not going to eat Reuven's food, but he can't say that Reuven can't eat Shimon's food. So to prohibit something that doesn't exist on someone else is twice removed. In other words, what we're doing is every time something doesn't exist, we're comparing it to someone else owns it. So that Abaya is telling Rabbi Yosef that what's going on over here is a step removed from what you're doing, because you're prohibiting something on someone else that doesn't exist. So that would be like prohibiting Reuven's food on Shimon or Shimon's food on Reuven, and you're not even Reuven or Shimon. So Elamar Rav Yehuna. Rav Huna responds to this. Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua. This is much later. Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua. He's a student of Abaya and Rava. This is a classic Gemara answer, that you're not prohibiting the income that doesn't exist yet on the husband. She's prohibiting the work of her hands. She's prohibiting her hands, whatever her hands produce, on her husband. My hands are prohibited to produce anything for you, and the hands exist already. So if the hands exist, so the vow could take effect, even though they're not divorced yet, but the hands exist already. So the husband has to annul it, but after the divorce, it's going to become problematic. The Yadayim is Nabaylam because the hands exist already. Our whole problem was she was prohibiting production of the work of her hands, after she's divorced, but she didn't produce it yet. She's not even divorced yet.
Why doesn't that apply to everything? People on God, everything that comes about is based on some creation that
Right.
already exists.
Right. But you have to say it like that. Talking about it here in the Mishnah, she said we're adjusting the Mishnah. She didn't say the work of my hands. She said my hands for what they produce is prohibited.
But this is the opposite of Ben Pekuda, where the body existed before the hands came out, and then when the hands come out, then they become prohibited. Just saying, it's a twist on the
So
words.
the Gemara is working very hard to find a way to say that these are valid words.
Right.
and
That it should actually be a vow for a later
Yeah.
time.
The capital I have, the machine I have.
Right.
exists. So all of the next 20 years. is
Right.
gonna be-
Right.
It's weird, it's really all vows. are about the future. If you're talking about.
Yeah,
vows,
but the
it's not
item
a vow.
exists. I'm prohibiting this. If you prohibit this, this exists. I have this.
Yeah, you say, I can't use it, but you can't use it. That
Fine.
you can't use it is about the future.
Yeah, I understand, but that's not a problem. The item exists. Now, our problem was that we're prohibiting something that doesn't even exist because she didn't produce anything after she's divorced. She's not even divorced yet. So,
So, got another one, because you didn't know by like my Ben Pekuda. We said, when we said Kinu Ye, we said a yad is also a prohibited
Right.
neder. One of the reasons yad is prohibited neder is because you can't grab the pot without grabbing the handle. So by definition, grabbing the yad grabs the pot. So here, the yad itself
right,
is the only means by which you do something in the future with cooking with the pot.
right, right. Very good.
I think what you said is important, but I didn't get
That's okay.
Saying that the yad
it. Seriously.
is a handle to the future. That's what he's saying. But the idea over here is not that the yad is a handle to the future. The idea here is that the yad exists right now, and therefore you can prohibit things that aren't here right now. It's literal and also figurative. Okay, the Gemara says, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. If she says that, would it actually be consecrated? Or the only way that this vow would work was because she was not owned by the husband after their divorce, and that's how she's able to take that vow. But now that you're adjusting it to say that she's consecrating, she's forbidding the work of her hands by saying her hands are prohibited, but her hands right now are owned by the husband. The husband owns her hands, the production of her hand. So she can take that vow now. So we say that when she's divorced, but right now she's not divorced. How do you know that that's going to work? So Rav Huna Breder Yeshua gave us a great answer, but it doesn't work because even though it solves the future problem, but it creates the problem of right now, she doesn't own that. Amar Rabila. Rabila says, we said regarding the surplus would be the same according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, the following Gemara is going to take us straight through to. Let's leave it over here. Let's leave it over here. It's going to be difficult to stop in the middle.
Are we at the top of the page?
Yeah, exactly on the top.
So with regard to capital, I have a factory that's owned by somebody else in China, right? Another country owns it.
Okay.
It has say over